So contrary to what everyone thought was going to happen, and yeah, it took 3 years, and it's been a long 3 years. Back to 2013, I should have just showed up here at the PRI show, but I had a few people who I also thought were my friends, and one in particular, who I considered a brother, that convinced me not to come and stand up and just say all this to you right then. I'll pay you through 2014, we'll get it worked out, but I didn't get the money. I didn't get the money. I chose to be a coward and stay home at the advice of those people. A few days later, there's a new sanctioning body, there's new track partners, sponsors are going different places. I don't begrudge anyone for that. But the way I was raised is if you're truly a friend to someone and somebody kicks them to the ground, you extend your hand to help them back up, not put the boots to them. So with that, Don, please sue me. Let's make this a part of public record so that we can put the real truth to bed. Anybody that's going back to Qatar, pass that information along to Cage. God knows he's got a hell of a lot more money than I'll ever have. Please, Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Thani, sue me for slander, for libel. Because I'm saying right now in front of all these people and anybody watching around the world, you didn't pay me the money. If you would have paid me the money, I would have paid my racers. I spent a third of my life, I'm 44 years old, I spent the last 15 years of my life promoting the sport of drag racing. And I happen to think, thanks to the help of everybody in this room and so many more that aren't in this room, we did a hell of a good job. We did a hell of a good job. So with that, is there anybody else that I forgot to ask to sue me? I got Don Greenbaum and Cage, so I think we're covered. That's the past, I'll never speak of it again. If I ever, everybody in this room, and there's a few that want to, or at least they've said over the last 3 years that they want to punch me in the mouth, or as was said a few days ago, somebody in the room should kill me over a race purse. If I say the word Don Greenbaum or Khalid or any variation of whatever they call them after I leave this press conference, everybody in here, including the ladies, have permission to punch me right in the mouth with no repercussions. So with that, we're moving on. It's 2017. When we finish up here, we're going to go upstairs to room 244, right up the escalators. When you go outside, make a left up the escalators to room 244. My assistant, Shauna Bones, we're going to have everybody fill out the necessary paperwork. We've got two things. A lot of you have sent your W-9s in, and this is just for my accountant and my lawyers to cover my butt, because I'm paying out monies, and there can't be any misconstrued that when we leave here that anybody's owed anything, and then there's a mutual settlement agreement release. If you choose not to sign this today, if you want to take it and have your counsel review it, I encourage you to do so. It was drafted by my general counsel, Shannon Norman, but it basically indemnifies and protects my wife, myself, Jack, and our affiliated companies from any further litigation, and it's a non-disclosure agreement so that we don't have to talk about this anymore. If you're not willing to sign that today, I completely understand, but I'm telling everybody in this room, you can get your check today and sign these documents, or you can fill it out, but everybody in this room that's owed money, and that goes to the car owners and the drivers, and to the crews that are owed some percentages and some bonuses, I apologize to you too, because you've also been short in all this. So we'll have that upstairs in room 244 as soon as we're done, and we'll stay, if I have to stay till 10 o'clock tonight. My wife Jessica is on medication right now, and I know a lot of you have expressed your concerns and your prayers, and I appreciate that. Maverick will be 36 weeks on Monday, so they've decided we're going to go in for a C-section on Monday morning. And she could go into labor right now, but she knew how important it was that I come here, like I should have done in 2013, and held my head high. I won't make that mistake again. So with that, I want to thank my beautiful wife Jessica, who's an integral part of the ADRL and the success of the ADRL. My daughter Madison, my son's Kenny Jr., KJ, as a lot of you know him, who's now 6'2", $180, getting ready to go to the University of Toledo, God willing, on an academic scholarship, and maybe if I can convince him to walk in on the football field, I happen to think he might be able to make the team, but we'll see. my son Joey, and my daughter Brooke, who are finishing up the 7th grade, and then of course, my new baby Maverick. I never thought at 44 years old that I would have a gap between kids that are 20 and now we'll have a brand newborn baby. But for those of you that know Jess and I well personally, John and Leanne and Uncle Roy and some of the people that I speak to on a daily basis, we've been trying for 5 years. How ironic that it was God's plan that all this come together, and then Monday I get to be rewarded by Jess and I finally having our first child together. We've got 4 collectively, but this is the first one we've had together. So my business partner in Free Tickets Entertainment LLC, Bobby Don Sullinger. Bobby Don, I couldn't possibly thank you enough for your friendship, for your mentorship, for everything that you've done for me and my family personally. Fight Hard MMA and the River City Raiders have kept me busy the last 3 years. But being a drag racer yourself, Bobby Don, you know that this has been my passion. And for most people in this room, I've never done any drugs. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. This is my adrenaline. And I found out that I get more adrenaline filling up the stands and getting the sponsorships and doing those things than I did driving the race car. So thank you to Bobby Don, to a very dear friend of mine and mentor, America's uncle, Uncle Roy Hill, who I've spent a lot of time with over the last 3 years, with him and Miss Jan and Gracie. And if you say any prayers today, pray a little bit for their dog Gracie. She was given 3 months to live 4 months ago. She's battling cancer, the most beautiful Rottweiler, the sweetest girl you'd ever see. Uncle Roy, to you and Miss Jan, from the bottom of my heart, I love you, I appreciate you. Steve Vick, you've been constantly by my side. Between you and Rick Moore, the support system that you provided me has been overwhelming, not just from a financial standpoint, but more importantly, far more importantly, from an emotional and a spiritual standpoint. To Mark and Joanne Walter, with Motor Mania TV, for being spiritual mentors and praying with me and getting me through this. To my employees, present and past, Bones, who's been right by my side, on my right hand since day one. I can be a tough guy to deal with at the races, and Bones always tells everybody, it's okay, it's part of the job. You know, the Kenny Nowling that wears sunglasses and the promoter that's got to go out there and act like a knucklehead and give away $100 bills, that promoter guy's a far different guy than the guy that's his best friend and the father to my children and the husband to my wife, but I get why I have to do it. To Bubba and Letha Corzine, Bubba and Letha Corzine, the ADRL would not be where they are today without them. Frog, Barry Murray, Animal and Hawk, Gopher, so many others. Our newest members of the team, Ralph and Kane, thank you so much. And with that, for those of you that haven't seen our 2017 schedule, we're going to jump right into it. I want to personally thank all of the track operators. We will be having a race in Florida March 3rd and 4th. We're working on finalizing that contract. We've been in negotiations with Palm Beach International Raceway. Thanks to a business relationship, we hope to finalize that this week. That will be 2 weeks before the Gator Nationals. We moved it from the 10th and 11th to accommodate the fact that the PRI will be racing in South Georgia. There's a Gainesville points meeting with us running Pro Alcohol Dragster and Funny Car, as well as Top Sportsman and Top Dragster. We didn't want to be on top of that, so we moved it a week earlier. There's also an NMCA race, and there's lots of great people, the Parisis and others, that'll be running the NMCA. We want to stay off of that as much as we can. So the Sunshine Drags will take place March 3rd and 4th, and all of this will be on our website, which will be launched later today, adrltour.com. April 7th and 8th, my good friend Steve Earwood welcomes us back to Rockingham Dragway for the Spring Drags. May 19th and 20th, we make our farthest trip west to Seth Angel's place down in Baytown, Texas for Dragpalooza. June the 2nd and the 3rd, our first of 2 races, and someone I want to personally thank, Curtis Francois and Chris Blair. Chris, for believing in me. It's taken me 3 years to convince them that free tickets can fill up a place and make us all money. And I'll just ask you and put you on the spot. Were you happy with what we did in a few weeks?
For what you did in 4 weeks, it was a miracle. It really was. So prove to me you've got balls. So that's what I'm going to say.
A lot of people would question that, but I appreciate it. So our first stop at Gateway next year, unless something's changed since 2009 and 2010, the two largest dragway events as far as an actual crowd that's ever been in Gateway Motorsports Park. For those of you that were there, Brian Game, I believe, had about a half dozen campers sleeping in his pits. He gave them blankets and pillows and whatnot because they didn't want to leave. They wanted to be there for the show to start on Saturday morning. So we'll be in St. Louis on June 2nd and 3rd for the St. Louis Gateway Drags at Gateway Motorsports Park. June 30 and July 1, purposefully sandwiched between the Norwalk NHRA National event and the Joliet NHRA National event, we'll have our Summer Drags event in Martin, Michigan. We're giving an open invitation to all NHRA professional teams to come and test with us that particular weekend. Thursday and Friday, we can fit you in during the show, we will, but we can at least commit you can come on your way to Joliet and test Thursday and Friday. I want to thank Jason Peterson and his son Samuel, who's here somewhere. I don't know how I can miss him. He's got to be hiding in the way back because he's so tall, for allowing that to happen. We'll take the summer break. I don't know about you guys, and I know a lot of series have so many races they have to race in July and August. I'm not one of them. I don't want to be there. I don't want my family there. The fans sure as heck don't want to be there. So we'll take our summer break. We'll come back September 8th and 9th for the U.S. Drags. We have it narrowed down. We've got a list of about 8 tracks that we're going back and forth with. We'll make the decision geographically, financially, what's best for our racers and for the ADRL. From there, we'll go back to Memphis International Raceway, Pam Kendrick, my good friend Don Blasco. We finally get to produce an event together. We've been trying to do this for who knows how long. I'm more excited about that than maybe anything next year. October the 6th and 7th for the Memphis Drags. Then we'll wrap things up November 3rd and 4th in St. Louis for Drag Stock 12. And for those of you that are worried about the weather, who was at St. Louis this year? John? Could it have gotten any better?
No. Unbelievable.
Maybe a few thousandths of a second better, so we could have got that 3, but it couldn't have gotten much better than that. So a quick run through our classes, and before I get off of that Gateway event, I saw Farron Lubers with Hoosier in here earlier. Farron, are you still here? Farron, I want to thank you personally, and I want to thank Chris Duncan with Chris Duncan Race Cars. I made roughly, I don't know, when you're trying to put an event together, you can make 200 phone calls, and everybody was taking the wait and see approach, which I fully respect and understood. Farron didn't, and Chris Duncan didn't. They put their hard-earned money up, and we had one of the coolest things, and my hashtag has been bring long burnouts back to drag racing. I happen to think that they're a forgotten art. I think they're highly entertaining. So Farron put up a set of slicks. Bobby Don, my business partner, put up $1,000 cash, and I watched Randy Merrick do a 900-foot underpower burnout in a nitro-burning insane pro mod car. Randy's still getting the tires and the money, although I went about 1,100 foot in his Camaro with little Alec Ingram, who I apologized to him in advance. He knew it was going to happen. Alec's fighting osteosarcoma right now, and he got a bad report. But when you get out of the car at the end of the track and you have a young man who's terminally ill say, Kenny, Mr. Kenny called me. This has been the greatest day of my life. That's what we do this for. Everything else is just drag racing and fun. So Farron Lubers with Hoosier Racing Tire, Chris Duncan with Chris Duncan Race Cars, thank you for stepping up. At this time, I'll go through what our classes are and a couple of classes we're considering. We'll of course have Pro Alcohol Dragster and Pro Alcohol Funny Car, Real Pro Mod, and before I announce the next class, those classes will all run to 1,000 feet. Outlaw Pro Mod, Insane Pro Mod, Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Pro Junior, Top Junior, and depending on the level of support, Extreme Pro Stock and Pro Extreme Motorcycle. Those would all run to the 8th mile. And then our 2 newest classes, I'll introduce one now, and then I'll bring up a very special guest to introduce the next. We've reached an agreement with a sponsor that we'll announce in the coming days. God knows, until the check's in the bank, I will never announce another sponsor again, I assure you of that. we've added the Nitro Harleys for the entire 2017 ADRL Tour. I couldn't be more excited. Jay Turner's guys were glad enough to come up and kind of represent the Nitro Harley contingent. So for the Nitro Harley guys that are in here, from me to you, a big round of applause. I appreciate the confidence and the faith, and I want to thank Jay Turner personally for sitting down with Rick Moore and I in North Carolina down in Greensboro over lunch and working that deal out. I think it's going to be tremendous. It'll add a tremendous amount of entertainment value, needless to say. I'm sure everybody in this room at one time or another has watched Nitro Harleys, and I got to tell you, anything you have to ride where you have to put on a bulletproof vest before you get on it, pretty bad stuff. So we're thrilled to have the Nitro Harleys. With that, I'm going to bring up our first guest to introduce our next new pro class. He really needs no introduction to drag racing. I first met him as a kid in 1990 at the U.S. Nationals when Troy Coughlin, who's now doing great things in Pro Mod, won Super Gas back-to-back, running 180 miles per hour on a throttle stop, mind you, at Bowling Green and at Indy in an Olds Cutlass Supreme. There was another man that weekend that had a heck of a weekend driving an Olds Cutlass Supreme, and it was my favorite color, purple. Was super clean on the side. Big round of applause for my dear friend, pro stock legend, Larry Morgan. There's Mike right there, if you want to pull it out.
No, he doesn't owe me money. But I've got to tell you, it's an honor to come here. And Kenny, I've been a big fan of his. I've been watching, because I ran NHRA. I've saw our class diminish over the years. The fans, we lost the fans. And Kenny said, what can we do to get pro stock back? And I said, well, and you have to do something crazy. And I said, make it unlimited cubic inches, run to 1,000 foot with traction control, 5 forward gears. And he laughed at me and he says, I don't know shit about that. All I know is how to fill the stands. And I said, well, you asked me the question and that's what I told you. And I said, that's what I think you should do. Try to do it. You need to make a different change to get the fans back. But Kenny doesn't have a problem getting fans. I don't know if any of you noticed that, but I mean, look at this place. This place is packed. And if he can fill a press conference, you've all seen him fill the stands, but Kenny and I have been friends, like he said, for 25 years or better. And I respect him for what he's done. I will tell you this. He does have a lot of balls to come back in front of all you people owing you money and pay you. Not many people in here would do that. And I think we all owe that guy an applause for that. But getting back to this class deal, like I said, he asked me what you would do. And now that I didn't race last year because for 2 reasons. The support, I didn't have enough support to do it. And the other was I had a problem with my back and I needed to get that taken care of, which I did. I'm 100% now, and I'd like to go racing again. And I went to St. Louis and I saw the crowd that Kenny got in there. I thought, this is crazy. Well, first of all, when NHRA was, and I'm not knocking NHRA, listen, I've made a